Hello dear chess friends of International Chess School. In today's lecture I will continue to discuss the active defense and especially the active defense involving the exchange sacrifice. Sometimes from closed openings, positions with 7 or 8 pawns on the board arises, and often white takes the space advantage as in this position. I played this game. I'm the international master Nat Petre. I played this game against now the grandmaster Sebanik Mate from Slovenia, and white is threatening to increase his space advantage, while black spaces are cramped behind the pawn structure. But the same pawn structure, which assures white a stable advantage in the center and favors a wing attack, also may help the opponent to create a blockade. A blocked pawn formation means a general reduction in the number of action possible in any position, and as a result, starting from Nimzowitsch, blockade is often the weapon employed by the weaker side. In this case, my attention was attracted by this bishop. I wanted to reduce the possibilities related to that bishop. But at the first move here, white played bishop h3 with a very annoying threat of f5. None of the captures on f5 works for black. If he takes with a g pawn, then he will face difficulties along the g file. And if he takes with the e pawn, then additional threats will arise based on the advance e5, e6. On the other hand, the exchange of central pawn e6 for the g4 pawn will help white. I thought for a very long time here. I figured out the following line of passive defense: rook c7, f5, e takes f5, g takes f5, not b4. This is also a kind of indirect defense. The issue with this defense is if I manage to create enough threats to unbalance, to force white to regroup his pieces, if I can disturb his attack. And I thought I couldn't do it this way, because after queen f3, g takes f5, knight b5, rook c2, it is true that I created small threats on the queen side, but it is only a pawn, and I have only two active pieces, the rook and the knight. The problem is that black won't be able to coordinate these two active pieces with the other pieces, and those active pieces won't participate in defense, while white is ready, in the absence of black's light squares bishop, to play king g1, king h1, and then create huge threats along g file and along the h file. And now, after knight d6 in this position, white managed to bring the last piece, inactive piece, in attack. The knight has an excellent position on d6. It attacks f7. It threatens to take on f5, and such kind of knight improvements must be prevented at any price. So after a long think, I figured out the following plan. I played f5. If white doesn't take en passant here, black will have the upper hand on the queen side, exactly like in the previous line. And white's chances to open up a file on the king side will be severely reduced, as bishop h3 is on pawn's way. E takes f6, rook takes f6. Now g5 is the only way to continue the attack, as otherwise black will play h5 himself, trying to deflect the g4 pawn and then to take advantage of the f5 square. Actually, my whole idea was related to create a blockade on light squares. g5, rook f5, and this was black's concept. I want to get rid of the light squares bishop, which doesn't have a counterpart, and on the other hand, white will end up with a terrible bishop, which is extremely restricted by his own pawns. On the other hand, almost all black's pieces, excepting the dark squares bishop and a5 pawn, are placed on light squares, which make them invulnerable. Knight b5, knight d8. I was consolidating e6, but on the other hand, I prepare a second knight to support the f5 square. Bishop takes, knight takes, of course. This is the ideal outpost for the knight. And in this case, even if black sacrificed the exchange for nothing, he has full compensation. He realized the blockade. Rook e2, knight c6 back, rook e1, rook e8, king g2, bishop f8. I will pass quickly through this move, as these are simple improvement maneuvers. h4, knight g7, preventing white's counterplay based on h5, queen h3, knight bishop b4, rook f1, rook f8, bishop e1, bishop d6. There's no point in exchanging this horrible bishop. That is white's worst placed piece. Bishop d2, rook f5, queen e3, king f7, rook f3, knight h5. I tried to create a sort of pressure on f4, rook ef2, bishop c7, going for b6, queen e1, bishop b6, bishop e3, knight b4, queen c3, knight g7, rook f1, king g8, rook c1, knight c6, queen a3, bishop c7. And now it was a critical moment. Due to the pressure against the f4 pawn, White decided to give his knight for the dark squares bishop. But I believe this will make White's task difficult. He should have preserved the knight on the board and to play something quiet like queen d3, for example, and try to prevent the attack on f4. Knight takes, queen c5, rook f8, releasing the f5 square for the blockading knight one more time, bishop f2, knight f5, b4, a takes b4, queen takes b4, White didn't manage to unbalance the position. He created this small threat of pushing a5, a6 when the b7 pawn tended to be overloaded. Queen d7 was played here. Queen b6, not d6, rook b1, rook a8. Black is using the consequence of the pawn's trade on the queen side. Queen b3, knight e7, rook a1, knight e4, queen b4. Here I played queen c7, and after a few more moves my opponent, the grandmaster, offered a draw. But if I have played e5, I think I would have reached better chances. It is so unexpected. I calculated this line during the game, but I was superficial. I didn't consider that after d takes e5, queen g4, if White played bishop g3 after knight f5, White is lost due to the threat of knight h4. I only thought about taking on g3, which is also good. I remember that I was thinking about e5 during the game, but I'm not sure why I rejected the move. Now after e5, the only way to keep the balance would be a quiet move like king h2, when after e takes f4, rook takes, knight f5, rook a3, the knights are dominating White's bishop from f2, rook c8, rook af3, rook c4, queen b5, the only move. And I think that after queen b5, a takes b5, rook b4, the position is still equal. But anyway, after e5, it would be a nice trap. So you should sacrifice the exchange when the opponent's initiative or the opponent's space advantage seems to be very dangerous. And in this case, after the exchange sacrifice, White remained with a bad bishop, with a strange pawn structure. So Black, in the first place, spoiled White's pawn structure, broke the coordination between White's pieces, and used the fact that the knights were pretty active with a lot of good squares, while White couldn't use the advantage of the pair of rooks. The second position is extracted from a game played between the Romanian grandmasters Constantin Lupulescu and Badea Bella. Black has a solid setup, but extremely passive. There's no play for his minor pieces, and White has a certain preponderance in the center. He has 3 squared occupied, while he controls the 4th square. So this is a precondition for an attack. But Black seems to be pretty well defended around the king. There are the knight on f5, the bishop on g7, and the queen on e7. So it is pretty difficult for White to open Black's king position. He must take advantage of the passive position of the bishops. The bishop on g7 seems to be only a defensive piece, while the bishop from c8 is restricted by his own pawns. White's plan was to use the d6 square. He noticed that there's an imminent threat of bishop d6 or knight d6, as knight e4 and bishop f4 both controls the d6 square. So he played g4, but as it happens usual when one side attack, it has to take higher risks, it has to commit, and g4 is a very committal move. It spoils White's pawn structure around the king. Black played knight h4, the only move, as knight d6 will be punished by knight takes d6, queen takes, and knight takes g6, defending the bishop from f4 and attacking the queen at the same time by a discovered attack. So knight h4, knight c4, rook d8, it escapes from the skewer, and bishop d6, a very unpleasant position for black. Again, black is confronted with a difficult issue. What to do? If black will move the queen to d7 or e8, probably e8 is slightly better, as d7 will be in bishop's way. White will retire the bishop on a3, followed by knight ed6 and the other knight on e5. This will add extra pressure against the f7 pawn. But black was thinking of defending actively, and this means changing the character of the position, creating an imbalance. Rook takes d6. With the price of an exchange, black will remain with a pair of bishops. The light squares on the king, on White's king side, are already weakened, but now black will stress the vulnerability of the f4 square in the absence of the dark square's bishop. Knight c takes, knight c7. It is absolutely necessary in these cases where one side tries to create a blockade to create a group of pieces acting to create the blockade. King h1. f4 was preferable to fill up that gap. Knight d5, c4, knight f4, c5. It is true that the knight from d6 is looking good, but in fact White is unable to coordinate that knight with another piece, as it was in the previous line where he could have installed another knight on e5 in order to create pressure on f7. Rook b8, queen d2, g5. We can't consider this as a weakening, since the h5 square is not so dangerous. It's controlled actually by the f4 knight if White tries knight g3, knight h5. And on the other hand, Black reinforces the threat of knight f3. Rook e3, b6. In one move, black tries to activate the rook along the b file and creates some room for the light squares bishops. Rook d1, bishop a6, and now white did typical mistake. He felt uncomfortable about black's pressure on a6, f1 diagonal. He probably believed that at some point the bishop may enter in attack, bishop e2, bishop f3. But the solution chooses bishop c4 is not the right one, since the light squares bishop is the only piece that can defend the light squares. Why he has to defend the light squares? Because black's knight are on dark squares, which means that they are controlling important light squares, and this pawn structure d4 c5 stresses the vulnerability of the d5 square. Bishop takes, knight takes. Now f5 was a more ambitious line. Black could have played for an attack here. Actually, this move will open the f-file in black's favor, while the e6 pawn is pretty well defended. G takes f5, knight takes f5. I think white will have to give up the exchange back here, while black's king seems to be on a safer position than white's king. Anyway, black played knight hg6. Probably he intended to play knight d5 and knight f4, knight ed6, rook d8, b4, b5, knight e5, and a second exchange sacrifice on the same square, rook takes d6. If in the first case black played the exchange sacrifice in order to escape from a deadly attack and to obtain some practical chances in an inferior position, here sacrificing the rook for white's active knight and a pawn with such a passive pair of rooks in white's camp is completely justified also from material point of view. C takes, queen takes d6, knight takes f3, knight f4 back, rook e4, knight e5. Again, king's safety plays an important role, but black should keep the same material balance. a3, knight b6, knight c3, knight c4, a nice reposition of the knight. a4, a6, a takes b5, a takes, rook e1, queen d5. Especially the couple queen knight favors black because the exposed position of white's king in the corner. King g1, knight d6, rook e5. The best way to take the advantage if you have material up is sometimes to give back some of your advantage. Bishop takes, rook takes, queen a2. But in this case it's not enough. If white would have taken on c6 after queen a1, king g2, queen d4, queen c5, Queen d2 followed by knight c4, and White's king is in danger. So this could have been a riskier line. White played rook c5. He tries to keep the queen and the rook connected, and to be ready to interfere the queen on the first rank. Knight c4. Black wants to bring the queen on the back rank, and he breaks the coordination between White's rook and queen. Rook takes, queen e2, d5, and Black figured out White's intention based on rook c8 followed by queen h8. Actually, with this move, d4, d5, White wants to connect the queen and the rook in attack. So e5 is a multi-purpose move. It closes a1, h8 diagonal, but on the other hand, that pawn is ready to support the queen in his attack, in her attack against White's king. Rook takes c4. White decided to reduce the game to a drawish position. B takes c4, d6, and the draw was agreed. If White, after d6, Black could have played e4, and after d7, queen d1, the pawn is lost. King f2, queen takes d7, f takes e4, queen g4, queen takes c4, queen f4 check, and we have a very balanced position. The b pawn is dangerous, but White's king can't leave the defense of the h2 pawn, so the game will end up in a perpetual check. So this kind of exchange sacrifice in order to create a blockade is a very useful weapon when you are defending. You will seize control over a complex of squares, but at the same time you have to use the pieces comparison. As a result of such a tactical operation, you have to be able to compare your pieces with his pieces, and you have to get rid, like in this case, of some of his useful pieces, like it was the dark squares bishop, and leave the opponent with not so active pieces. Till our next lecture, best wishes.